get that started up. All right, 45 seconds, everyone. We're going to have a great show tonight. True Crime on tap. Nick from True Crime Garage is here. Good solid beard on him. Likes a good beer every now and again as well. I don't think I'm wrong so far, am I, Nick?
No. Well, the beard is no longer. That's an old picture.
No. Don't tell us that. Don't tell us that. That hurts our feelings around here. All right, everyone.
No, I can't keep a beard forever.
That's what I said. 5 seconds, everyone. We're going to have some fun tonight. Remember to give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, if you want to check out our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. True Crime Garage host Nick joins us to discuss his love of reporting the strange and horrific stories dredged up by the ugliness of humanity. Nick and his broadcast partner, the Captain, host a new show each week as they revisit some of the most haunting cases they've covered to date. This is a compilation of hidden treasures, a chance to dive deeper, and discuss new theories, updates of the strangest crimes they can. Their website, truecrimegarage.com. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. Nick, good to have you on Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Well, we're glad, because I haven't done a true crime show like this in a long time, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's a nice break from the woo, the UFOs, the disclosure, the everything that goes along with that. You know, let's learn a little bit about you and what you're all about here. How did you get started with True Crime Garage?
Well, true crime has always been something that I've been into for a long time, as long as I can remember. I have always enjoyed reading true crime and still very much do. That's my favorite way to get true crime information and read about the stories. A good friend of mine, we were looking to work on a project together. We had worked on several other projects together throughout our friendship, which has lasted almost our entire lives. And he was moving back to the greater Columbus, Ohio area. We thought we'd work on some type of project. And the strange thing was we were both listening to podcasts before you know, everybody listens to podcasts now, but we were listening to him way back when, and he had a background in recording engineering, and we had been in some bands together, so we both know a good deal about audio and equipment and trying to form an audience. And I said to him, I said, you know, these podcasts that we're always discussing when we're on the phone, when you move back, why don't we think about starting up one of our own? It seems like something we could do, kind of a natural fit. And he said, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? And I said, I have no idea. And after a couple of weeks of spitballing some ideas, I said to him, I said, you know, I think we should do true crime. I said, there's only a couple shows. Now there's probably 500 true crime podcasts out there. I said, there's a couple of shows out there, and a couple of them that are doing it right. And I said, I think we could incorporate some things that from the people that are doing it right, and then put our own spin on it. And let's do that. And he said, well, what do we call it? And I said, well, we're going to call it True Crime Garage. He said, why? That's a terrible name. I said, well, because it's going to be me and you talking true crime in my garage. It's the easiest way to explain exactly what you're in store for when you click that button, when you press play.
That is awesome that you just had that idea and you kind of ran with it, because, you know, the way podcasting is taken off these days, it's really given a lot of people an avenue to have, to have a public chat and express their own ideas, methods, and ideologies with people of the same ilk. And, how much fun have you had with this, man?
I've had a lot of fun with it, but it's like anything else. It started off as a hobby, and it's turned into a job, and I'm very thankful for that. And but some weeks, most weeks, it is a lot of work, and there are some things that I don't enjoy about it. There's some tedious secretarial type work that wasn't there back when nobody was listening. But I think of these parts, I remind myself these are the rewards, even if they're tasks that you don't want to do or don't have time for. This is the reward of being lucky enough to have an audience.
How long have you been doing this? Because it does take a while to build up an audience. We are as of tomorrow, we are we're 1 month away from 6 years of doing this show. And I think a lot of people, especially the fans, don't understand how much work actually goes in to doing this. Now, I do this 5 nights a week. You guys do it once a week, and there's a lot of energy and time and missed events that goes into that. It's personal.
Well, we started releasing shows, I think, in October of 2015. It was either October or November of 2015. So we are right at the 5-year mark.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And with that, you mentioned a little bit of why you chose true crime. For you and the captain, your partner there, what is it about true crime that really kind of excites you?
For me, I love the mystery of it. So I strongly prefer when we cover unsolved cases, because there is so much mystery involved in telling, in piecing those stories together and researching the information.
Yeah, and that's a big one too, is trying to figure out, because maybe, just maybe, guys like yourself have a question that hasn't been asked yet. Yeah, and that's what we're always kind of looking for when putting these stories together. Our goal every week is, first of all, to inform and entertain the audience. And beyond that, we want, when our crew shows up to listen to the show, we want, one, that they feel like they're hanging out with some of their friends and doing something enjoyable. But two, we don't want it to be just like any other show where we want you to be able to tune in. Maybe it's a case you already have some familiarity with, but we want you to hear something that maybe you haven't heard before, a little juicy nugget of knowledge that we can drop for you on some angle of the case that maybe hasn't been explored, or, as you said, something as simple as a question that hasn't been asked yet. Well, I want to ask you this, though. Are there certain types of cases that you will not take part of? Because I know for me, there are certain subjects on this show that I won't get into. How about for you?
Well, there's certainly cases that I prefer over other ones, but I can't think of anything offhand that we say, no, this is off the table.
Well, that's good.
I mean, look, true crime is a messy business. I mean, we're talking about unpleasant subject matter. So to be willing to get in there and do that and spend so much time in it, dancing in the blood, if you will. It would be difficult to go into it saying, no, we don't discuss this or that, or So yeah, I can't think of anything. I can think of specific cases that we would like not to cover, but I can't think of a general topic within true crime that we say no, we don't cover that.
But I think one of the big things too is you're not, promoting the killer or the people who committed the crime. This is about trying to tell the story of the family.
Well, it's trying to tell the story of the victim, and it's also, what can we, as human beings, what can we learn from this story? Whether it be an unsolved case or a solved case, what can we learn from it and apply to our everyday lives? And of course, we're not cheering on the killer. That's the side of true crime that I absolutely cannot stand. I cannot stand it when I'm talking to somebody and they say, maybe they got. Sometimes you see people that have shirts on that are kind of celebrating some kind of serial killer, and sometimes you get in conversations with people that are, oh, my favorite killer is so and so, and it's like we're not talking about football teams here. This is a monster that is a soulless individual that decided to take the lives of people that matter and people that mean something, that have loved ones, that had their whole life ahead of them. And for anybody to celebrate that makes absolute no sense to me, though. I try to, you try to come to terms with everything and try to reason and rationalize things. And when it comes to that, the only thing I can come up with, I'm like, why would anybody be that way? Are they just somebody that's never experienced anything real or tragic? Have they just had some kind of nerfy life that they think that we're talking about something out of a comic book here? This is real life stuff. And one of the most enjoyable, but also some of the most sad stuff that I have to do is a lot of times I meet or talk to persons that were relatives of a victim, and it's heartbreaking. And sometimes you're talking to a person who has lost a loved one 20, 30 years ago, and the pain is still very real, very real.
No, that is very true. Very true. And it's amazing how we put, or at least some part of society puts these serial killers or these murderers on some sort of pedestal like they're a rock star icon or god.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to have a conversation about who's more interesting, Hannibal Lecter, Francis Dollarhide, or Jane Gum, Buffalo Bill, that's a fun conversation. Let's have that. I don't want to sit around and talk about who do you like better, Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy.
I want to ask you, how has your idea and your thoughts of humanity changed since hosting True Crime Garage?
That's a difficult question because I don't think, as far as the true crime element goes, that's not really changed my life or thinking any, because I've been reading true crime for 30 years, so it's always been something that I've been well aware of and haven't really come across anything new, that I haven't read in another case at some point a long time ago. So from the true crime angle, that's not really changed me any or conflicted me any. I will say that the thing that has been educational is the social media end of having a business that is a podcast.
Can you go into that just a little bit?
Well, I not without being rude, but here we go. I think right now, because of social media and computers and everything, and just the way that tech in society is, right now everybody has a voice. And back in the day, you had to earn that. And there was a reason why everyone didn't have a voice. And I think maybe some people shouldn't have one.
Now, are you saying that in regards to podcasting, or just, people using social media as a giant voice and to maybe earn leverage or to argue on the platform that they have decided to use?
I think that people are. I don't think that, and this doesn't go across the board, of course. I mean, there's for every one nasty person out there, there's 1,000 wonderful people. But I think the nasty people these days tend to be the loudest, and I don't think that they have much to offer as far as keeping the conversation interesting. And it's, with anything, you're going to have trolls. You're going to have people that are hurtful and mean-spirited. And I think what gets lost on those individuals is that words have real meaning, and I think people should respect that.
Nick from True Crime Garage is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Nick, as you go through, what kind of remarks or criticisms do you receive from people, when they listen to your podcast? Because I know I'm very up to date on what people say and think about mine, and I have to say, sometimes a good solid critique is very beneficial in how we shape and shift the show. But for you, dealing with the subject matter that you deal with, is it hard at times when people, just feel that they need to criticize or try and get you to change your own game plan?
No, I don't mind the critiquing of the show. That's not it at all. I think that what I'm pointing toward that I find annoying and is more so the people going at it, getting disagreements. We've seen situations too where people victim bash, or I nothing about critiquing the show, because if I were perfect, I wouldn't be a guy sitting in a garage doing a show. I'd be, in a high rise somewhere. So there's no confusion on my end for that. And I do very much appreciate hearing from the audience, the good, the bad, and anything in between, because without them, we don't exist. And if we're not getting better, then we're either getting worse or we're standing still, and we don't want to do either of those. So the critiquing, we welcome it, and we want to keep it an interactive show as much as we possibly can. It's just when sometimes you see squabbles between listeners online or people that can be very harsh on people that are actually victims in our story. And that is something that I don't care for.
I could just imagine, because, I mean, it's amazing how people are at times. We break things down to such a finite detail these days that we're looking for anything to nag on. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Yeah,
and like I said, it's few and far between. For every one nasty person out there, there's 1,000 wonderful people. But like I said, I think that sometimes, given the platforms that we've given that are so freely available to everyone these days, the nasty people seem to have the loudest voice, and that's just it's shameful.
So why do it? Why do the podcast, True Crime Garage?
Why do it? Oh, I love doing it. I love doing the show. I love putting out the stories. I love putting the stories together. Is some of my favorite parts of it, and that's stuff that doesn't make it to the the airwaves. But and then going beyond that, just my own personal satisfaction that I get out of it. Sometimes we are able to make somewhat of a difference. I mean, we're able to help these cases along. Even if it's just keeping the story alive, keeping somebody's story alive. There's been cases that we've covered that have, before we got a hold of them, had zero digital footprint. And it's like, okay, one day this guy or girl, their life was snuffed out, and it was a story in the newspaper for a week or two, and then it just went away. And 10, 15 years later, it's almost like it never happened. And that to me is very sad, and I love that we are able to bring some of those stories into our little garage spotlight that we have, and tell those stories and remind people that this is still something that matters. It's something that hasn't been resolved. There's somebody out there responsible for these horrible acts, and they need to be held accountable. And frankly, I don't feel comfortable with them walking amongst us. And one of the cases that we covered early in the garage was a case of a boy named Tony Muncie. He was about 15 years old, and he told his parents he was going to take the old bus out to the west side of Columbus and meet up with his girlfriend at the time. Well, Tony didn't come home that night, and they found him in a ditch in a county just one county north of where he lived. That case sat there. That was from the early 80s. And that case sat there and sat there. We covered it, and I was very glad that we were able to cover it, because it was a case that nobody else had covered. And it was everything that I just said. There was no website. His case wasn't featured anywhere. It was never on TV. It was like this thing that happened, this nasty, terrible, horrible thing that happened one day. And then everybody grew up. They didn't find the guy that did it. Everybody grew up. Everybody moved on. And now it's like this thing that just gets further and further away from everybody. And then it's like something that never happened. And that's just not cool. And so, strangely enough, True Crime Garage didn't have anything to do with the case getting solved, but it got solved last year. And earlier this year. And I mean, what an amazing thing. But it was so wonderful that we were able to cover that. And, you know, what was weird was we spoke with his brother, who was little. He was younger than Tony. Spoke with his brother around the time that we covered the case, and had some conversation with him, and then got to hear back from him after they finally solved the case. And it was something that, of course, it stuck with his family, and was a real bad, horrible thing for his family, something they never got over. And even though it's solved, they'll never get over it. You know, it's not something, you don't put a guy in handcuffs one day and then all of a sudden your loved one reappears. They don't come back. But, I think that's the power of people, though. If you can have people that just see something that they don't agree with and just say, no, no, I'm not going to be cool with this. And I think that's how, if you want change, that's how you get change, by people doing that. And we're not doing anything amazing here in the garage other than telling these stories that we think that should be told, that we won't forget about, and we don't want others to forget about them.
Nick, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. From True Crime Garage, we have Nick with us. We're going to get into some weird cases that Nick and his partner, the Captain, and we got our own captain around here, by the way. We're going to get into some of those.
I think every show's got a captain.
Yeah. Well, we are going to get into some weird cases that they've covered on True Crime Garage right after this. All right, man, we're clear. Good start.
Okay.
Good, solid start.
Thanks.
No problem. It's what we do around here. It's what we do. let's go here. Oh, you okay? You didn't trip and fall there, did you? You didn't get murdered? Maybe he did. You okay there, Nick?
Yeah, I'm all right.
All right, just making sure you didn't get knocked off there. Let's see here. What are we going here? Well, of course we have dead air. I am not talking right now, Cat Chaser. I could talk right now. By the way, Cat Chaser, thank you for the super chat. Fapster, thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. So, Nick, are you a Blue Jackets fan? Let's just get it out there right now.
I am, but this might be an unpopular thing to say. I'm not. I don't know a whole lot about hockey.
That's okay. We can forgive that.
But I do enjoy the Blue Jackets. I go to usually 1 or 2 games a year. For the very casual hockey fan, the in-person experiences feels 100 times greater than the TV experience.
I just miss covering the games. I used to cover the NHL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right.
What do we got? 2 minutes left?
Yeah, we got 2.5. 2.5.
Okay, I'm going to set my phone down for 2. I'll be back in 2.
No problem. Hi, Mario. What's going on? Oh, I think you're right, Brett. Hey, Fabster, thank you again for the super chat, brother. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You're way too kind to me, man. Way too kind to me. Where's Corinth's question? What if, when waking up in the morning, you brushed your body for fingerprints and found many that you could not figure out whose they were? That's what you call Las Vegas, Corey. Hey, Stone. How are you? I hope that was a nice vodka or a glass of wine or something that was pouring there.
A little bourbon.
Even better. Even better.
It's late here on the Eastern time zone.
It's 12:34. Not that late yet. When we end, it'll be late.
There you go. I have a little bourbon here that will keep me up.
Oh, you have that nip, man. You have that nip. That never hurts anybody. All right, we got 30 seconds. Mike wants to know if that's Horse Soldier bourbon.
It's 4 Roses.
4 Roses, okay. All right, 5 seconds. Thank you, everybody, for Super Chat. Thank you for the thumbs up. Here we go, everyone.
.com.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Really appreciate you taking the time. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking true crime from the podcast True Crime Garage. We got Nick here, and he's hanging on out, going to tell us some weird crime stories. And Nick, where I want to start this next segment is with a series you did on the Missoula Mauler. Fill us in on that one, man.
Well, that's a rare case of a Montana serial killer. They don't have too many. You know, there's not as many people in Montana, as big as that state is. But I think that he is, the moniker that they give him is the Montana's first and only serial killer, and his name was Wayne Nance. He served in I believe he served in the Army or the Navy, and he had a couple of victims before he went out and served for this great country, and then when he came back, he had a few more, and he was hiding in plain sight, as they say. This was one of those guys. This is a very dangerous type. He was the type that some of his victims were in their own homes, and he would break into the homes or sneak into the homes when they were gone and wait for them to return. And then when they would return, he would attack the victim or in some cases it was more than one victim. And he was a pretty young man. He started, his first kills were a woman that he knew. It was actually a friend of his friend's mother that he killed, and he was a senior in high school, and he was actually a suspect in that case, but there was a bit of a big disagreement amongst the police department in the area, the sheriff's office there, where about half of the officers thought that he was good for this murder, and the other half thought, you know, how would a senior in high school do this? And they suspected the husband. And that murder actually wasn't solved for, I think it was about 12 years later. He attempted to attack a woman in her home, and it was a woman that he worked with at a furniture store. And he broke into the home and tried to tie up and kill the husband, and he got pretty close. He wasn't successful doing that, thank God. And the husband got the best of him, fired a single shot, hit Wayne, and then proceeded to beat him pretty badly with the rifle. And Wayne didn't survive. He's one of the very few serial killers to be killed by a victim, and he didn't survive. And once they were looking into his background, they said, well, wait a second, he was killed attempting to do this. Oh, we remember he was a suspect 11 and 12 years ago in this other case. And sure enough, when they went into his home, they found some items from that first case and from a few other cases inside his home. And so they were able to clear several cases by finding those items and realizing that he was
the killer of several people. He was a suspect in this child murder that took place right around, the same area and the same time frame. And I think he was a suspect for years in that case just because he was active and alive. And on Monday of this week, they actually solved that case with DNA, and it turned out not to be Wayne Nance. I never really thought that it was Wayne Nance, but we're living in the golden age of solving cold cases, and it's exciting stuff to see that they're able to use this technology nowadays to clear up a lot of these old cases. The one that was solved on Monday, forgive me, I don't have my notes in front of me, but the victim, that case would have been from the early 80s, and so it sat there cold for all these years, and finally it's solved. And her father and sister are still alive. They were at the press conference and very happy to finally have that solved.
I bet. With somebody like Wayne Nance, I mean, this was a gentleman who really didn't care about the age or the sex of the person. He was just out to kill, almost to tap into his own fetishes.
Yeah, his targets were women of a certain age, primarily, mostly adult women. And when it comes to he didn't care about the sex, that is absolutely true. But any male victims would be just because they were in the way of the target victim.
Right. Well, that's just kind of creepy at best. And, it's weird to think that he is one of the very few serial killers that was actually shot and killed by one of his victims. I mean, that is a giant rarity in the field of true crime, is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. And in fact, I think that I think Chris Wells is the name of the victim that he was attempting to kill. She was a manager at the furniture store where he worked, and he seemed to have a pretty hardcore infatuation with her. And he was snooping around their house looking to break in. He was similar to the Golden State Killer, where he would break into these homes, sneak into these homes sometimes when the victims weren't there, and he would go through their stuff, and he would manipulate the house and set things up for him for later, so he could come back in at another time and victimize these people. And I think he was pretty set on doing something, that night. But what happened was the couple, Chris Wells and her husband, came home, and he's outside peeking in their windows. And, the husband says to him, "What's going on here, Wayne?" And he says that he saw somebody attempting to break in or messing around with their place, and he chased them off. And so he kind of used that ruse to work his way into the house and attack the husband when he turned his back on him. And like you said, he is one of it's rare for a serial killer to be killed by a potential victim. But the interesting thing with that is Chris Wells and her husband have been out to Quantico at the FBI Academy several times to educate the agents and do a Q&A with them about their violent encounter and their fight for their lives inside their home against this guy. And I find that interesting.
I'm going to get you to move a little closer. I'm going to get you to move a little closer to your mic. You're sounding a little muffled, if you don't mind.
Okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, they go out to Quantico. They've been out there a few times to discuss the case with the agents out there.
That is interesting. Very interesting. Nick from True Crime Garage is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Let's move on to another one here that you guys have covered during your show that our audience may not be familiar with. Tell us who Ray Rivera is.
Ray Rivera was a young man in Baltimore. He was hoping to get into the film industry, wanted to be a screenwriter, and I guess a director as well. But he lived in Baltimore briefly, and they found him in the name of the hotel escapes me at the moment.
The Mount Vernon or the Belvedere Hotel?
The Belvedere Hotel, yeah. And it took over about a week to find him there. He was missing. His wife was out on a work trip, and he left the house in a strange manner. They had a house guest. The house guest says he got some kind of phone call. He said an expletive, and then he kind of stormed out the door, and they didn't find him. And now they found his vehicle. They couldn't find him for about a week. They found his vehicle about a day before they found him. And some coworkers of his that were helping in the search for Ray, they're out walking on this parking garage, and they happen to look down and they see a hole in the roof of the Belvedere Hotel, a couple stories down. And somehow Ray went through the roof. He caused that hole, and his body was found in this portion of the building that was very rarely used. And he had been there probably since the night that he went missing. And the mystery has always been, well, how did he get there? Because it wouldn't be where the hole is in relation to the places where he could have jumped or been thrown from. It's pretty difficult to get him where he ended up. So the mystery's always been how and why did he get there? And was it suicide or did somebody make him do something, or was he killed? Was he thrown?
What do you think happened there?
It's not a popular conclusion, but I think that he committed suicide. There were things going on in Ray's life at that time where it appears that he, from my dumb guy sitting in the garage angle, it appears to me that he had some type of psychotic break, and I think that he very likely ran as fast as he could and jumped from a location. There are some locations where it's much more feasible for him to end up where he did than, to be frank with you, I think Unsolved Mysteries covered it on their most recent stuff on Netflix when they came back out. Maybe not their most recent stuff, but when they came back out this year in July, they covered it. It was episode 1, and I think they sensationalized it a little bit, to be honest with you. I think they made it more of a mystery than it might be. There are certainly people that don't believe that that's even a possibility. His wife has been very vocal about his case. She doesn't believe that Baltimore PD gave it their best effort. And that might be the case. She might be right on that. And I know that his brother, Ray's brother, certainly doesn't think that Ray would have committed suicide. But look, a psychotic break, it doesn't mean that it might not have been the old Ray that you were used to that jumped off that building. I think that something happened, and the mental health, is not a great. We don't do a great job of working with mental health and working on mental health in this country, and it's a difficult subject to address anyway. So it makes it complicated all around. But I think that that's probably what happened with Ray. It's unfortunate. It's tragic. The guy was super. Everything I could tell, super great guy, very loved, very liked.
Wasn't there some question on how he got to the roof? of the Belvedere because there was a lot of locked doors that he would have had to have gone through?
Yes and no. That's one of those weird questions. And you see this once in a while with true crime, with these cases where I guess it's like anything. Depending on who you ask, it depends on the answers you're going to get. And there are a lot of people that would say, well, it would be impossible for him to get up there without being seen or without being granted access to locked doors, locked windows, and such. But then there's others that tell you differently, that said, if you went up the stairwell, then basically anybody could get up there. The other thing, too, that is really shocking that is not reported very often, and I was surprised that it didn't make it to Unsolved Mysteries, is there was a bar that was open to the public in the Belvedere, and it was on one of the higher floors. So that seems to me like even Nick from True Crime Garage could have walked in that elevator, went up to that bar, and maybe made my way elsewhere from there. So I don't think it's as impossible as they make it sound. It makes a much better story when you say it was impossible. We covered a case, Brian Schaefer in Columbus, a man who disappeared, who's never been seen again. And the way the short of that story is a man walked into a bar and disappeared. And yes, that makes for a great story. He went into that bar and he made it out of that bar. Or somebody made him go out of that bar somehow. He's just not caught on camera ever again. And I lived in the area. I've been to the same bar that he went missing from. It's situated weird. It's on the second floor. You have to go into the main building and take an escalator to go up to the second floor there, and then you can walk into the bar from there. But they say he had to have gone out of one of three doors, and one was an area that's under construction, and the other was the staff and employees only area. And then the other was the escalator and then out the front door to where all the public would go. But that's just not true. There's 6 or 7 doors total that he could have gone out of. There are areas that he could have managed to get through somehow without being caught on camera at that time. Again, it makes for a better story to say a man walked into a bar and he disappeared. We still don't know what happened to Brian Schaefer. We may never know, unfortunately, but I think he made it out of that building. And same thing with Ray. I think that there's a chance that Ray may have managed to get up there somehow, some way.
This story has so many different eerie twists and turns, whether you believe it's suicide or whether it was something nefarious. And to me, it's almost, very eerily similar to what Elisa Lam went through in California with her alleged suicide at the Cecil Hotel.
Yes, it is similar. Elisa Lam's case is a very strange one. We've covered that one as well. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to give you the answers that people want to hear. Lisa Lam, I think, was... Look, if she managed to get herself into that, it would not have been impossible for her to get herself into that vat or whatever we want to call that. It's her case is disturbing to me and disturbing to many. But the thing that really bothers me with her case is I see a building that's mismanaged. That you have people in the public staying there who stay there and believe that they're safe, believe that they're receiving a certain level of security and they have a certain level of safety while they're there. And that's probably part of the price that you pay to stay there in the cost of your room. And it's just not the case. That place is very mismanaged. There's no reason that anybody should be able to make it up to the rooftop on their own at a hotel. I've worked in high rises in security and security administrator for high rise buildings.
It's just inexcusable, the lack of service and lack of security that was being provided for the guest at the hotel that Elisa Lam stayed at.
Yeah, that case still rattles, and of course, being from British Columbia myself, that case still, is relatively close to home for a lot of people here who still would like to know what really happened, on that faithful night as well. We only got about 3 minutes to go before we have to go to break, but something that was similar in between these two cases, between Elisa Lam and our good friend Ray Rivera, was the fact that they seemed to act very awkwardly right before being seen for the last time. Ray had that phone call where he all of a sudden was acting strange and had to quickly leave the house, where Elisa had that weird video footage of her in the elevator there. And it does show almost signs of some kind of, psychosis that is underway.
Yeah, Elisa had some issues that were known beforehand, and Ray may have been going through something that was coming on pretty quickly. And what I would really like to know in Ray's case, and there is still, I don't want to just dismiss it so quickly and say it was suicide 100%. There's certainly a lot of mystery in Ray's case, and there's some questionable things as well with people that he was with or associated with may not have all been on the up and up. But the thing with Ray's case that I would most like to know is what was going on with the house guests. What's the house guest situation? Because that's a part of the story that they really just gloss over when telling it on Unsolved Mysteries and anywhere else that I've seen coverage of Ray's case. It's bizarre that house guest may have been the last person to see Ray, that knew Ray. Obviously there were people that would have seen him between the house and where he ended up, but maybe they didn't know Ray. Maybe it was just somebody on the street or where he parked his car. That's a part of the story where I really wish that they wouldn't have glossed over it so much. I think that there's something there that might provide some kind of answer, some kind of detail that's missing.
Are you surprised that there is no real suicide note or anything really detailing outside the death of the body and how it was found?
Yes, I am, because that doesn't strike me as Ray's personality, to leave his loved ones hanging, so to speak. I don't think that he would want to cause them any more hurt or harm. Like I said, he was very well liked, very well loved by his family, and you don't just get to be that way without being loving and liking your loved ones as well, and showing that. So, yeah, I think it's a little bizarre. There was that note that was taped to the back of his computer. I can't make heads or tails of that note. I don't know that anybody can.
Right.
That's where I wonder if this is signs of a psychotic break.
On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to get into more cases here on real crime, true crime, and some of the strangest cases that we can find with Nick from True Crime Garage. His website, if you want to check it out, they go brand new with new shows once a week. Nick and the Captain. TrueCrimeGarage.com. Make sure you check it on out. Throw them a few bucks for their beer money because they like to have a beer when they're doing the show. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, my friend, I'm going to quickly step away for a couple minutes. I'll be right back, okay?
Sounds good. I'm going to do the same.
All right.
Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Tribe and Tribe Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Tribe Charities, just go to tribecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is watching.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent, and there's no cost to what we do.
I'm back, my friend.
I'm here as well.
Right on. Right on.
Just Googled horse soldier bourbon because I had not heard of that one. Looks legit.
Yes, Vinny, that was Little Richie G on the Moose commercial. All right. What do we got here? Hey, D. Swagger, how are you? Chef Chemist says, I've listened to every True Crime Garage show. I love this.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, Chef has a fantastic mustache, too, just so you know. Really solid lip blade. All right, we got 1 minute here. 1 minute. And, hey, Raul, thank you for coming on in, man. Good to have you back. Appreciate you. Walter, good to see you. Slim, it's been a while. Don't know where you've been hanging out. Thank you to FAP for the double shot of Super Chats. Thank you to Cat Chaser. It's a great way to support what we do here. Hey, Big Rob, how you doing, man? Good to have you here. And don't forget, if you're new to this channel, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. It's a good way to support what we do. We got new swag coming very, very soon to our new store, and it's going to look real good. Real darn good. 10 seconds, everyone. Cashew, how you doing? The gorgeous and lovely Kira is in the chat room as well. Hello, Kira. Hello. All right, here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. I am Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember to check out all of our archives. They are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do we got here, Clam? Pointy shoes. Pointy shoes is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter, once again, at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram, once again, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight from True Crime Garage, we have Nick happening here, and we are getting into some weird, strange cases that they have covered on their True Crime Garage podcast, the website, truecrimegarage.com. Nick, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you once again for having me.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Let's move into a different direction here and go to Veronica Bloomhorst. I mean, this looks like a nice, innocent lady. She liked her dolls, which is eerie in the first place. But what happened with her?
Well, Veronica, this is one of the more strange disappearance cases for me because she goes to work that night, job that she's had for a while, pretty routine day. She worked nights at this convenience store. And so she's leaving work. She's seen by her coworker. This is Illinois, and this I don't remember what month it was, but it would have been one of the cooler months of the year. She worked nights, as said, so they got off, I think, at 1 a.m. And she goes outside, heats up the car, lets it, heat up for a while, and she says, her coworker says, she left there at 1:05, and I know this because we were both in the parking lot together, heating up our vehicles. Her work wasn't terribly far from her home. She lived with her parents because she was still pretty young, 19, I'm guessing. But they had a detached garage, and they kind of had a system, the mom, dad, and brother. And Veronica was typically the last one home because she worked so late. And then so it was her job to, quote unquote, shut down the garage. And her mother had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night at about a set time. I don't know if it was 2 a.m., I'm guessing, I think it was, that she would wake up and she would look out the kitchen window, which you could see the detached garage from their kitchen window.
and she could verify that her daughter made it home by seeing the garage having been, again, shut down in its shut down state, which I'm guessing means garage door shut, lights off, the man door closed and locked. You know, the people think that's a weird term, but that's the term for the door that the people walk through, not the big garage door. So the garage looks the way that it should, per her mom at 2 a.m. when she gets up to do her nightly check. So everybody thinks that Veronica is home and in her bed sleeping, and she's supposed to drive her brother to school the next day because her brother is having some kind of vehicle trouble. And at the last minute, he can't find his sister, and he ends up getting a ride. And then it's later that day that Veronica's father figures out, even though her car is in the garage, there's no Veronica. So she made it home. She made it home, or somebody intercepted her between work and home and put her car in the garage and did all the things to close the garage down that she would have done. Now, I absolutely think that she made it home. I think that something happened after she got home that between making it the 30, the 30-foot, 40-foot walk from garage to house is when she went missing. I actually think that there's a good chance that she may have willingly got into a vehicle, and she's never been seen ever since. And there's been some good suspects in that case.
Were there any boys that she was interested in at that time? Because that's what sounds logical. 19 years old, probably wants a boyfriend, or maybe there's somebody who had interest in her.
So she had a boyfriend. She definitely had a boyfriend. It's been stated that he was, quote, weird after her disappearance. Now, let's say that's always a difficult thing to analyze. What does weird mean? I mean, how does anyone react to someone they truly care about going missing? So either you can take it one way and he's a suspect and should be, or he's just coping with something that none of us want to have to ever experience. And so he was a suspect, and one person that I think should be a suspect, there was a police officer that lived in that neighborhood, and he should be a suspect for a couple of reasons. One, he was running around on his wife at the time, and excuse me, I had to take a big drink there. But after reviewing the case, there are some people that wondered if maybe he was interested in Veronica, and maybe he made a move on her, and maybe her being a very trusting person got into his vehicle willingly that night. But I also wonder, is there a chance that maybe she saw something that she shouldn't have with this guy running around, and maybe she threatened to tell somebody about this. But yeah, the boyfriend is a suspect. The police officer is an interesting one, and if I remember correctly, there was a third individual, but I can't recall who it was.
So with her vanishing without a trace, were there any clues or evidence left behind that she was with someone else, or that maybe she just went for a walk and, I don't know, maybe got picked up and kidnapped?
Well, one of the bigger clues would be when they brought out the dogs to try to follow her scent. It went out to the road. The dogs went out to the road, and then they stopped. They get very confused. Usually what that indicates is that person
made it to that spot and didn't leave that spot, meaning they got into a vehicle or they just vanished into thin air. So we know what's more likely. They got into a vehicle. That's where the scent ends for the dogs. So the dogs get confused because it should go somewhere. So that's one clue that to point toward her getting into a vehicle. The problem with the crime scene, which would be the garage and the vehicle, the problem with that is they weren't processed properly. And a lot of that, though, comes from, look, I mean, they may just not have done a good job, but what's more likely is they think that they're looking for a missing person that's just missing. You know, so that's one thing that I think that the general public has a hard time understanding about detective work and police work, is that a lot of times when they're getting a call, they're responding to a call and they're investigating something that might not actually be the actual crime that took place. And so at the time, I think that they, didn't see any reason to process the vehicle or the garage because they were simply looking for a missing woman that they thought that they would find. Now, days after they don't find her, they're going, shoot, we should have probably processed that car differently. We should have processed that garage. Maybe we missed something. And they could have. They could have missed something.
It's been almost 30, 35 years since she went missing. You know, and usually there are some kind of clues that pop up over time. People are very, very sloppy. Yet in this case, have we seen anything pop up? Nobody's ever seen her again. She never popped up on a gas station camera. Anything?
No, I think the closest thing that they had was they thought that they had a witness that saw her in the passenger seat of a passing vehicle. And this kind of created a suspect that was not necessary. The suspect ended up being a relative or a family friend of Veronica's. And it turned out to be that the eyewitness was just wrong. It wasn't Veronica in the passenger seat. It was someone that looked very much like Veronica. So you have these things like that in these cases where they are really just they're a false lead, and they're something that the detectives have to spend their time on, and it turns out to be a waste of time. And these cases where they don't find a body, and I hate to say it that way, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but even her father has said, they don't think that they're looking for Veronica anymore. They're hoping to find her remains at some point so they can bring her home and give her a proper burial. But these cases where they don't find a body, they're not extremely rare. They are rare, but it's weird. To me, it's weird when there's not even a are they alive or dead answer. It's those ones are always very strange for me. But who knows? Maybe the cop did something and he has knowledge of how these things are investigated, or the best ways to hide something that you don't want somebody to find because of his law enforcement background. The boyfriend also had access to his father was involved in some kind of either owned a security company or worked for a security company that worked out in these areas that were woodlands and also areas that were under construction. So maybe he utilized one of those areas to get rid of her. But the problem is nobody can fully understand the dynamics of a relationship between the boyfriend and girlfriend. But
But I didn't see anything on the surface that would point to reasons for something to go bad between the two of them.
All right, let's shift gears here. Chef wants to know from our chat room about the John P. Wheeler case that you've discussed.
John P. Wheeler?
Yes.
I'm not, that doesn't ring a bell. Now, we've done over 400 episodes, so if the chef could maybe provide a little more detail.
I believe this was the American businessman, chairman of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. A
I totally appreciate the chef. I think that he might have a different show that he's thinking of.
All right.
Other than True Crime.
Well, let's move on here. You did a story recently back in August called The American Nazi. Now, this one just seems a little freaky right off the bat because I think we all pretty much cringe the minute the N-word is thrown around like that. You know, but I mean, this guy that you got a photo of, he looks pretty creepy.
Yeah, he was, I mean, you know, today we have people that will label somebody a Nazi, and maybe it's unwarranted, but this situation, no. This dude was very much every bit of the American Nazi. You can see him wearing the outfit right there on our website. And this was a weird story because it was something that 60 Minutes was covering before he was murdered. They were covering him and his little group because of what they were trying to do. They were trying to shut something down. It had something to do with the local labor. The problem was this guy was I believe he was a plumber, and he had fallen out of work when the housing market, when the market crashed back in, what was that, 2007, 2008. He was out of work, and he had trouble finding work, and then he got into this group of these hate speech people, and I really found this guy to be just a big fat loser at the end of the day. I mean, he was somebody that, look, yeah, he had some problems, and were things not going his way? Yeah, they weren't going his way, but I think he was putting a lot of effort in his little Nazi movement and not so much effort into finding a job and doing the right thing. And his son shot him in the head in the middle of the night while he was sleeping on the couch. And I think that there was probably a lot of stuff going on in the house at the time. This is one of those weird stories where you have a victim, the man that lost his life, and it's hard to feel anything for the victim. And I hate to be that way. I want to be a better person than that and more evolved than that. But I saw an individual that you know, his loved one said that he was a good father and whatnot, and I didn't see that. And of course, they know him much, much better than I do, but I didn't see that. I saw somebody where the police had been called to the house multiple times for domestic disputes, for domestic things involving the children, and I saw a guy that was not working, not providing for his family, and was dressing up like a Nazi, teaching his son how to use a gun at a very young age, at an inappropriate age. And he was, I don't know. He didn't deserve to die. Nobody's saying that. It's just, this was one of those weird situations where, one of the only situations that I can think of that we've covered a case where we have a victim that it was hard for me to feel much compassion for.
Yeah, and it's hard to find compassion for that. Did the son ever admit why he murdered his father?
So the son was very young. He was like 10. And I think at the time he was one of the youngest people to be convicted of that in their state. There was definitely something going on there where his current wife said that it bordered, his discipline of the boy bordered on abuse, borderline abuse most of the time. And the son seemed to not have a full understanding of what it is that he did, what the consequence of what he did was. Not only so much so that he would get in trouble for it, but not even a full understanding of, oh, my father's dead now. He's gone forever now. The boy was young, and he said some things during questioning with police that were obvious that he didn't have a full grasp of the consequences of his actions.
Well, at 10 years old, how can you?
Right.
You know, I mean,
it's a tragic thing, and look, I'm a gun owner. There are people that are for guns, against guns. I don't really have a hard stance on any of that. I see the benefit in having guns. I also see the benefit in not having guns. But if you're going to have guns and you're going to have them in your home, the number one thing is you have to be responsible. You have to be responsible. I'll say it 30 times. You cannot have these, they're killing machines, and you cannot have them available and accessible to people that don't know how to use them, or in this situation, don't understand the consequences of using them.
Very true.
Yeah, the kid took his father's gun and shot him in the head. I mean, the kid should have never had access to that gun.
No, absolutely. But was there signs of abuse in the house?
Well, I mean, the police have been called several times. They never charged him with anything. So in his defense, that's the truth at the end of the day. If there was enough to charge him, they would have charged him, but they never did. But a lot of times where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know. I don't know that I would say 100% certain how bad the abuse was. I think that this guy probably had a temper, and I think at times he probably got a little more aggressive than just disciplining his child. But the other thing, though, too, about that is we're talking about a situation where this guy is hosting Nazi meetings inside his home. And you just wonder at the end of the day, when this child is exposed to that type of propaganda and hate speak and those kind of things, how is he supposed to have any empathy for other people or compassion for other people when he's hearing his father, the male role model in his life, at his very young life, talking about groups of people and how they don't deserve to live in this country and shouldn't live in this country. And I can't imagine what that does to that little tiny spongy brain of a child, just absorbing everything. How can they have any full understanding or compassion for human life and other people?
Very true. Very true. My friend, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour. Our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, one half of the True Crime Garage podcast. We got Nick with us, and we're going to continue with some very interesting cases that they have covered on their fantastic podcast. TrueCrimeGarage.com is their website. So if you're interested in true crime, this is one of the places where you can get the real goods and the great goods as well from a great podcast. We'll be back with more True Crime on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear. Having fun yet?
I'm having a good time. I'm going to have another bourbon, actually.
Nice. Very good.
Well, it's late enough here that I have to time this perfectly that I can do the show with you and then fall asleep as quickly as possible after the show.
It works.
Yeah, I got stuff to do at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so do I. 7 o'clock, to be honest. I got to get my little guy ready for school.
But 7 o'clock for you would be 10 o'clock for me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. You got that Eastern time zone thing going on.
Right. But it's all good fun. I'm happy to be on here, and your guys' kind of format. I very much dig that kind of stuff. I like the spooky late night radio like that. I dig that. That's something I would have listened to in my younger years, or even now would it be available here.
Well, you're more than welcome to tune on in anytime. We're easy to find.
I have to listen online.
We are accepting new listeners, just so you know.
You're on 5 terrestrial channels?
Yeah. 4 in the U.S., 1 up in Canada.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you are in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in British Columbia. I am about 5.5 hours northeast of Vancouver. We got to ask you a couple questions. We ask every guest this, and I'm getting harassed by the people in the chat room. So we'll ask you a couple of questions here, Nick, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
All right, question number 1. What is your opinion of eating breakfast for dinner?
I enjoy it, but rarely. It's not something I would do very often, but yes, sign me up.
Another good man gone to waste. Good man gone to waste. Oh.
No breakfast for dinner for you?
Nope. That's why they call it breakfast food.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it's a cheap, delicious way to feed a family. So once in a while, I'm for it. I think the reason why that I'm for it is that I don't eat much breakfast regularly. So I probably have breakfast 3 times a month.
All right, question number 2, since you broke my heart on the first one. All right, it would be, you remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yes.
All right, where the aliens landed there at Devil's Tower in Wyoming, right?
Okay.
Okay, Devil's Tower there. Do you believe it's a tree stump, or do you believe it's a giant rock?
Oh, wow. Well, I was completely wrong on the last question, so I've always thought rock, but what do I know? I'm a guy that eats breakfast for dinner once a month.
This is true. You are, so, I mean, I am curious about your intentions here, Yeah, the audience is pretty proud that you're a breakfast for dinner kind of guy. Oh, man. Strange people.
Again, I think it's because I don't experience it that often, so I need another avenue to get the bacon and eggs and home fries and the amazing amount. The one thing that blows my mind is the amazing amount of names that we've come up for potatoes on this planet. the seemingly they're prepared very much in similar fashion, yet there's 10 different names, a dozen different names for that.
All right, my friend, hold on 1 second. Here we go. We got 10 seconds here. Hold on, everyone. We're going to restart this radio show, if you don't mind. Get rid of this misery of breakfast for dinner bullshit. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate all of you tuning us on in. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Well, we bring Nick back from True Crime Garage. A little disappointing during the break to find out he is a man who likes eating breakfast for dinner. You know, I don't know what's with people who do that, but he's one of them. He's one of the majority, apparently. I'm in the minority. Breakfast food should be eaten at breakfast, but that's okay. That's okay. Nick can be found at truecrimegarage.com for their weekly podcast there. Highly suggest you check it on out. Nick, welcome back.
Thank you. And let me ask you a question here, Dave. What about, while we're on the subject, what about pizza, cold pizza for breakfast?
Oh, see, pizza is like bacon, okay? It's a universal food that can be eaten at any time, anywhere. Like, for instance, I had pizza tonight for dinner.
Right.
I may indulge in some pizza in the morning because that's a bachelor thing to do, even though I'm not a bachelor. You know, that's something that's taught in bachelorhood. I think for everybody out there that it is okay as a breakfast food. So pizza and bacon, totally universal.
See, I agree with you on both of those, but I think you boxed yourself into a corner here. You just said bacon acceptable any time of the day. That also applies to dinner time.
Well, that's because I'm Canadian and we eat bacon at any time. Oh, well. Damn it, man. Like, are we going to get into the breakfast debate here because you're the guy who eats scrambled baked eggs for dinner?
We don't need to have a debate. I was just looking at it from a different angle.
Oh, man, I was prepared. I was totally prepared. I had stretched before that. Stretched. I was ready. Focused. All right, my friend, let's continue on here with True Crime tonight. You have an interesting story. You've titled it Trail of Blood. Looks like a pretty young man who's in court and in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's the case, the Eddie O'Brien Jr. case. The woman across the street from him was murdered, stabbed to death inside her home. A very violent, very bloody attack. And he was charged with her murder. And it's a weird case because he was a young man, 15 years old. And the thought or the case that was presented at trial was that he was infatuated with this woman, and that the attack was somehow sexual in nature. And he was seen leaving the crime scene. And there was physical evidence of him having been at the crime scene. The difficult thing with his case was he does not deny being at the crime scene. However, he says that he stumbled upon her body after she either in the process of her dying or shortly afterwards. And he was taken to trial for this, and he was convicted, and he received a life sentence with no parole at the age 15 for the murder of his friend's mother.
It was his friend's mom that he killed. Holy cow.
Yeah, so this was a tight-knit community. It was the house across the street from his, and his father was one of the people that called 911. So her son came home, found her, and then ran across the street because, you know, that was the kind of neighborhood it was. All of the kids knew all of the parents. All the kids knew each other. They, you know, all the parents knew each other. It was that type of neighborhood. He came home, found his mother dead in this horrible scene, and freaks out, and of course, and runs across the street to tell someone, you know, alert someone. And so Eddie O'Brien Jr.'s father, who is known as Big Ed, he comes across the street, grabs another neighbor, and they go in there together, and then they see this horrible sight, and they call 911.
I could never imagine what that would be like for a child to see their one of their parents brutally murdered in their own home.
Yeah, I mean, let's all pray that none of us ever have to experience anything like that, nor, you know,
for sure,
or anyone else. Yeah,
for sure. So this young man gets life in prison without possibility of parole at 15. What is your opinion on young people like that being sentenced to life in prison? I realize that could be a politically charged question. I don't want to go too much in depth with it, but I'm just curious as someone who looks into this on a daily basis.
So this is a weird one for me because I am always of the ideal of having the most strictest of penalties for very violent offenders. I'm one of those individuals that nonviolent crimes don't bother me so much, and I think that our prison system gets jammed up quite a bit with a lot of nonviolent offenders. And you know, look, the drug dealer on the corner, I would rather him not be there. I would rather him not be in business. But at the end of the day, he doesn't scare me so much. The person that scares me is somebody that's doing drive-by shootings, or somebody that's robbing and raping, or somebody that's breaking into homes and violently attacking people. Violent crime is on a whole different level than these non-violent crimes. Now, in this situation, you're talking about a horribly, horribly violent crime. Whoever committed this crime very likely is capable of doing this again at some point. Not saying that they absolutely will, but they are always capable. Having done it once, they could do it again. That person, that individual, has no business walking around amongst the rest of us, ever, ever. The problem here is with this particular case, I reviewed the trial itself, and I didn't feel that, look, I don't know if this kid is guilty or not, but the trial and the things that were not presented at trial, I won't go as far to say that he didn't get a fair trial. I will go as far to say is that there should be some things in the appeals process that should raise a red flag and should be examined better, a little more detail.
My only, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? My only thought on it would be this. I don't know, you know, if I look back at my life when I was 12, or in the first case, you know, we had the 10-year-old killing his Nazi father, okay, or we have a 15-year-old that has, you know, murdered a mother that he had a crush on, the mother of his best friend, all right? I don't know if a child is mentally stable enough or conscious enough to understand that the decisions that they are making. And when I look back on my life, you know, I would never, ever think of doing something so horrific like that. But at times it makes me wonder, are the penalties of throwing these children into life sentences without any chance of parole or rehabilitation even worth it? Because their minds aren't very fully formed. Now, that being said, there are psychopaths out there. Was the kid out killing cats or rats or birds or dogs or melting his daughter or his sister's Barbie dolls or something along those lines that could have triggered this kind of horrific behavior? And I think in most cases that the child doesn't know really what they have actually accomplished or even done.
No, I agree with that. I think that it's a very complicated issue, really, because then you have to go. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no perfect scenario. There's no way for us to look into the mind and soul of an individual and decide who they are and what they will be. And in this situation, or any, you have to go, okay, are they a psychopath? Are they someone that's going to reoffend again? How do we know 100% that we're right or wrong that somebody will reoffend?
Very
and
true.
Then on top of that, we go, okay, well, even if he did do this, what is our confidence level in our prison system that they will be able to rehabilitate this person? And then to top that off, the icing on the cake is a very smart individual who's put several of these psychopaths away told me one time, and I thought this was some very interesting insight. He told me, he said, how can you rehabilitate somebody who's never been rehabilitated in the first place? So it becomes a very interesting discussion. In Eddie O'Brien Jr.'s case, look, if he did that to the woman across the street, I'm not comfortable with him ever being outside of prison walls. And if he has to sit there and rot there forever, I'm fine with that. I'm so happy about that. But the thing is, there were things at trial that didn't get presented that should have been presented. And I don't know 100% that we found the right guy. I'm not saying that he's innocent. I'm saying that it's inconclusive. I'm saying that in that specific situation, we have an item that was found at the crime scene, at the murder scene, that could have possibly been the murder weapon. And here's what they did. They tested it. They determined that the victim's blood was on this item and that someone else's blood is on that item, and that blood does not match Eddie O'Brien. And I want to know whose blood was on that item and why was it on that item. And if you can't present that at court, when we are going to take a 15-year-old and sentence him to rot in a cell for the rest of the entirety of his life, how can you give that sentence with any level of confidence beyond reasonable doubt? There's got to be reasonable doubt there when you have an item that has someone else's blood on it and it's not Eddie O'Brien's.
If the blood is on that knife, why hasn't it been investigated by police? Like, to me, not knowing the full details, it almost sounds like they coerced a 15-year-old kid who had a crush on his best friend's mom, and, it was a quick, easy sale. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, maybe a quick, easy sale. I actually think that in some situations, I actually think in the majority of situations, people are quick to want to hang the cops and say, oh, they did a terrible job, or they're trying to do a frame them up job.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, but I think the majority of the time, I actually think that they absolutely think the person is guilty, and I don't know that we should fault them for finding reasons to believe that somebody is guilty and pursuing it of that manner. Look, the best ball players in baseball hit 300, 400. They bat 300, 400 batting average, and same thing with any walk of life. None of us are perfect. We're not going to be perfect every single time. And in this situation, what I think we have here is I question the prosecutor, and I question, they tested that. They didn't not test that. They tested it and determined that the blood belongs to somebody else. Well, let's take it a step further. Let's test it and figure out who it belongs to. Because they know it didn't belong to Eddie, because had it belonged to Eddie, they would have been pounding their fist on the table at the trial saying that his blood was found on the same item that had the victim's blood. There's no doubt that you need to convict this young man.
No, and I understand that, and I appreciate that, but, it doesn't sound like it's case closed by what you're saying.
No, I don't think it's case closed. I think that there's room for appeal there. And look, they can't determine 100% that was the murder weapon. It's a possibility that it was the murder weapon, but regardless if it was or was not, we're talking about an item that has the victim's blood and somebody else's blood on it. That doesn't just magically happen. So let's figure that out before we lock somebody up for the entirety of their life. This kid was 15 years old. Who knows how long he could spend in prison before he passes away.
Very true. Very true. Let's move on here. We got about 6.5 minutes before we go to break here at the top of the hour. Nick from True Crime Garage Podcast is with us. Tell us about Heidi Firkus. What happened with her?
Heidi Firkus. Oh, so she was, and this was a weird case. Her and her husband were at home in the middle of the night, and they placed a 911 call. They believe somebody is in their home. And the way that this goes down is that the husband says, after the fact, that he was wrestling with the intruder, who he gives a description of this person, but in the process, his wife ends up being shot to death, and the thought is that he may have killed his wife and tried to blame it on an intruder situation. This is very reminiscent of the Blade Runner guy, where they thought somebody had broke into the house and he accidentally shot her to death. Well, might have just been a good excuse for killing your wife. And this is a weird case. It's one that on the surface, it truly looks like the law enforcement fully believe that he killed his wife. They just don't have the evidence. They just don't have anything to take it one step further toward bringing action against this guy.
It's almost like, in order to fake his own injuries, it's almost like maybe he hired someone to beat the tar out of him.
Well, I don't know that would have happened. I think that what I think actually went down is I don't think that he planned to kill her. And that's where you take it another level, the level of evil. Was this just something that happened? Was it a spur of the moment knee-jerk reaction, oh, I'm a terrible person because I took her life, but things got out of hand, I didn't know what I was doing? Or is it a whole nother level of, I planned this out, I thought about it for days, I thought about what I was going to, not only am I going to kill her, but I'm going to blame it on an intruder, I'm going to call 911.
What's the husband doing now?
Oh, he's married and doing just fine. This is one of those cases that, and I hate to do this. I rarely say this on the show, but since I'm on somebody else's show, I'll say it. This is a case where I think that the bad guy won, and I don't think that I don't really foresee any reason why they will bring charges against this guy. Sometimes they just don't have the evidence.
That's too bad. That really is too bad. And, the wife's family, the victim's family, what do they believe?
I think that they don't trust this guy. I think that there's holes in his story, and that they probably, in the beginning, believed him, and then saw some of these holes, and that manifests from there to a point where you go, okay, well, what was really going on here? Why did this intruder break into the house? We got shots fired, and then we don't have any eyewitnesses that see somebody fleeing from the home. Look, this guy, he shut it down pretty quickly as far as the questioning goes. He gave a very brief, I'll talk to you one time, I'm a victim here kind of situation, and then he put law enforcement at arm's length very quickly in their investigation. And he did everything under the blanket of his attorney very quickly afterwards.
Quick change of subject here, as we only got about 90 seconds here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Nick from True Crime Podcast is here. And our True Crime Garage Podcast, that is. Here's a question from Derek on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Nick, what's your favorite beer, and have you and the captain thought of brewing your own yet?
All right, well, I'll answer the second question first. Yes, we would love to collaborate with an actual legit brewer. You don't want Nick and the captain making something in our bathtub and trying to get people to drink it. So yeah, we would love to do something of that. And then nailing down my favorite beer, that's difficult. I got a lot of breweries that I really like. I like, this is one that's hard to say, Hoof Hearted, that's here in Ohio, that I really like. I like Tactical Brewing, that's down in Florida. There's just a lot of great companies doing some really good stuff. We live in the golden age of beer right now. I like Flying Monkey craft brewery a whole heck of a lot as well. So I know that that's not a great answer for our friend, but yeah, that's my answer. No bathtub beer from Nick and the Captain.
No bathtub beer. That, you know what? That could be a good name for it. Your bathtub beer.
You go.
I'm still trying to find a microbrewery that could do anything without an IPA on it. That's all I want to see. And the minute I do, I'll go buy beer from them. Because it seems like, I don't know what it's like down there, but up here in Canada, every microbrewery seems to only brew IPAs.
Well, I think that's right. I haven't found one that does not do an IPA, but I think that's the way that you dip your toe in the waters before you swan dive into the deep end.
Very true. Nick, hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Nick from True Crime Garage Podcast is with us another 30 minutes. Then we're going to bring you the SOR News Wire, the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, man. We're clear. I'm just going to take a quick break here. I'll be right back in a couple minutes, okay?
Sounds good. Me too.
The Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best-rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Tried and Tried Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Tried Charities, just go to triedcharities.org/donate.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightline Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a sightline.
All right, my friend, I am back. We have 90 seconds.
Excellent.
Yeah, so just stick with us through the break. When I say goodnight to you on the air, just stick with us through the break, and I'll say a proper good night to you before or once we're in break, okay?
Okay.
Rock and roll, man.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. All right, let's see here. All right, Bigfoot or Big Rob, thank you so much for the super chat tonight, along with Fap and Cat Chaser. I really do appreciate the love and support that you guys all give our show. If you're new to the channel, do us a favor. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell, which tells you that you get to know when the shows are coming on live. So we are live every night at 9 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Alberta time, or that would be Mountain Time. Canada, it's Alberta time. Central Time, we are on at 11. Eastern Time, we are on at 12. 1 a.m. in the Maritimes. 1:30 we start in Newfoundland because they like an extra half an hour on things over there. I know. I know. But they're good people. Stu Gerson! Right there, buddy. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune us in. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free. They're at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Pointy Shoes. Pointy Shoes is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guest from the True Crime Garage podcast. We have Nick with us, where he and his partner, the captain, they literally host a podcast each week. And, of course, they like their beer, too. You know, who doesn't? I mean, I do every now and again. Hey, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I do want to say, since we are, this is rare for me to be on in Canada. I do want to say from what I've experienced, I love Canada. I've been up to Ontario when I was a kid. Best fishing trip I've ever been on. I loved it. I've been dying to go out to Vancouver at some point. That's on the bucket list.
Well, you got to get out here. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I have a good friend of mine. He lives in Mexico now. His name's John Huntington. And a lot of people may recognize his name from Hart and Huntington Tattoos and being, one of the guys who really turned Vegas around in the 90s. And anyways, he will not come to British Columbia. He goes, dude,
why?
I want to go to British Columbia. It looks beautiful, but I will never come. I said, why? He is so petrified of Sasquatch that he refuses to come to BC because he goes, what if I'm staying in downtown Vancouver and all of a sudden, I go out on the street and one of them Sasquatch appears? What do I do? And I said, dude, it's not going to happen.
Make friends. Friends.
No, he is just absolutely petrified of it. Won't come to British Columbia because of it. True story.
Who's to say that Sasquatch is a violent creature?
What was that? You kind of broke up.
I said, who's to say that Sasquatch is a violent creature? Make friends with the guy.
That's what I said.
Or it could just be a hairy person. Who knows?
Well, speaking of hair, Life Dweller in the chat room says the beard is looking good, Dave. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's because I use Mighty Moose beard oil. That's what I do. Anyways, we're talking true crime tonight. And we have Nick here from TrueCrimeGarage.com. And let's go through some of these shows that you did. Here's a lovely lady, and I'm sure something really horrible happened to her. Heather Teague.
Yeah, she went missing off of a beach in Kentucky. And this was a weird situation where we have somebody calling in who seems to believe that they observed the abduction of this woman. The caller says this guy comes running out of the woods and pulls this woman into the woods. Where the whole thing gets convoluted very quickly is this is all taking place on the border of Indiana and Kentucky. Now, I don't know how things work up in Canada, but in the United States, the state boundaries are very definitive. I mean, it's you have very different jurisdictions, and in fact, when this 911 call came in, nobody really knew where to route the damn call or who's supposed to respond to it. So you have that whole mess, and then to top that off, they never find her body. And then people are suspicious of not only the man that is believed to have been coming out of the woods to abduct her, but then years later, people are suspicious of the man that made the 911 call. So it's a weird case, and yeah, it's another one of those that the problem is when you have these abductions and you cannot find the remains, your investigators are really at a loss for what type of investigation do they run, because again, like we talked about with the Bloomhurst case, was you don't know what you're looking at when you show up there. You think that on that day that you're showing up to investigate a case where you're looking for a missing person, that you believe that you will find them, and that doesn't happen.
What's interesting about that is if somebody ran and grabbed her while she's on a beach, came out of a forest and grabbed her, how can anybody not see a full-grown woman struggling or being kidnapped?
Well, but somebody did. I mean, and that person was the individual that called 911. From the way that I understand this is that she was, like, we say beach, but this was a river, not an ocean, and she was on a turn where there was not so many people. And again, this is one of those weird little details where it's argued by the people in the area at the time. Where was she in this isolated area that nobody would have witnessed this? A lot of people say yes. Was she? But there's also a lot of people that say no. There were so many people there that day, somebody should have seen something, but they didn't. What is not in dispute is that she was there that day in that location, and she has been missing ever since.
Goodness. Do you think a lot of these ladies who are taken and subsequently, you know, I mean, you could even say that with children or young men as well that are taken and their bodies subsequently aren't found, do you think that they are taken for more nefarious reasons and that's why a body has never been found?
In comparison to bodies that have been found?
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking, you know, human trafficking here.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but no, I don't think that it's, I don't think that anything worse is being done to victims that have not been found than victims that are found. I think it's just the crime solving comes in to profiling the perpetrator of these crimes. How much effort and intelligence are they going to put into committing their crime and then not getting caught for their crime?
Very true. So with that being said, they must be very confident that what they are doing, the chances of getting caught are almost slim to none.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give any secret passcodes away for those that play Nintendo, but if they don't have a body, you have a whole different case on your hands. Okay? Prosecutors in the United States are very cagey about trying to bring someone to court when there's no body. So if you can commit a crime, murder someone, and there not be a body, you stand a much better chance of never having to set foot in a courtroom in front of a judge and jury to be charged with that crime. So if you don't want to be in court for killing someone and you have the means and opportunity to do so, you put them in the ground somewhere, or you put them in a river or a body of water. And that will, again, not trying to give away some kind of cheat code here, but unfortunately that's the situation. It makes it harder for investigators to do what they do.
And that makes sense because up here in British Columbia, right through Washington State and even Oregon, we have the cases of the missing feet, where feet in running shoes or any type of shoe washes up on the shore. Now, a lot of the police believe that it's just people who've committed suicide, their bodies get swept away by the current, and then nature takes its course, and eventually, because the foot is being protected by the rubber sole of the shoe, it starts to float and makes its way eventually to shore. That's their logical theory. However, there are members of the media out there that I have talked to very privately about this who honestly believe that there is a serial killer out there and is, dumping bodies out in the Vancouver water area. Georgia Strait, Strait of Juan de Fuca, etc.
Yeah, that's a weird scenario because I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that the shoe protects the foot, and therefore the animals, the fish that would be devouring the rest of whatever, they're leaving the feet. But I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I think that why the hell wouldn't the fish or whomever devour the shoe as well? I mean, it's not like they didn't eat the leg because they were wearing a pair of jeans. So I think that there's definitely something going on here. The problem that you have to factor in there, though, too, like the big question mark is where's the rest of the body? Where? And why just the feet?
Well, they believe that the body has been feasted upon by everything from fish to mammals to crustaceans, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, but again, why just the feet? What? It makes no sense. It makes very little sense. If these individuals were committing suicide, they were fully clothed. Why are these? What, you think these animals, the fish, are just choosing to devour the fully clothed body, but not the feet? Because the feet are wearing shoes?
Very true.
Doesn't make any sense.
Look, I'm on the side that there is something nefarious going on. That's where I'm on the side of, and I believe what friends of mine in the media believe too, that there is potentially a serial killer or serial killers out there. Vancouver and the entire Lower Mainland area is very well known for having a number of serial killers, from Clifford Olson right to Robert Willie Pickton. And,
right.
I mean, let's face it, the crimes aren't just from those two. There are other people who are going extremely missing, and it's not good with what's happening with them because, they do believe there are other serial killers that are walking around the city of Vancouver.
Yeah, very likely that there are one or two serial killers walking around in Vancouver. I mean, it's a metropolis, and unfortunately, when you have that many people in one area, you're going to have a couple of psychopaths.
Very true. Very true. And especially in Vancouver with a high populace of homeless people, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it has the poorest area in Canada in the downtown east side, where heroin and fentanyl really rules the day. I mean, that's where it gets a little bit hairy with everything. And I could see it happening. But then again, you could say that about every metropolis around North America and the world.
100%. And the problem with the drugs, especially with heroin and fentanyl, the thing that you have with those situations is what those drugs do to the brain is a million different things, but one of those things is that it causes a certain level of paranoia, where these individuals are starting to see things and perceive things that are not there, that are not what they are, and they start getting very paranoid about people close to them, and they react sometimes in a violent manner because they don't understand what's going on. They think they're being, attacked or under siege by people that are close to them, and they kill them. They kill them, and that's the drug stalking.
That's very true. Very true. And I mean, the big thing is, you don't know. You don't know if your neighbor is going that. What do you think is causing a lot of these people to turn, whether it's young people, all right, or whether it is people who have had sadistic dreams? Do you believe that it is the way society is now, where we've accepted not just violence, but horrific violence as part of everyday culture?
Well, I would ask you to define your question a little bit better. What does it mean with the drugs? And what does it mean with violence?
I mean, it could be anything. It could be drugs. It could be psychosis. It could be just for the thrill of the rush because of video games. Now, I'm not on the. Just for clarification, I'm not on the bandwagon that says, well, just because you play Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto that you're going to go murder, 25 people. But there's a lot. It seems like in today's day and age, it hasn't so much been because of COVID, but with a lot of mass shootings out there, in my opinion, it almost seems like these mass shooters are trying to one-up each other. Well, you got 20, I got to go get 21 or 25, as sickening as that is. Do you think that's societal?
Well, no, I don't. I actually don't think it. I think that that's very individual. I think that that's, again, talking about mental health being a concern, and it should be a concern, and it should be something that we should spend more time on and invest more resources into, and we should offer more help to people that think that they have an issue with that. As far as violent crime goes, believe it or not, it's actually hard to believe when you flip on the news, but violent crime in the United States is actually down and has been down for the last decade or so. And so I think that will come as a surprise to some of the people listening to this show, but No one's going to know the cause of these things. It is what it is. There are going to be violent individuals. Look, I'm not going to get too religious on anybody. I'm not a super religious person myself, but at the end of the day, I fully believe that there are good people and there are evil people, and there's going to be a clash between those two classes for eternity. There's no way around it. There are some bad people. There are people that are born bad. There are people that are made bad by society. And that's the way that it is, and that's the way that it always was.
It is sad, isn't it? It is sad. But we've only got about...
Well, of course it's sad. Of course it's sad. But, I don't know that there's a way to correct that, to be honest with you, because we're talking about millions and millions of people. There's going to be bad. There's going to be bad forever. There's no way to outlaw bad. There's no way to stop bad from being born. It is, I hate to say it is what it is, but that's the situation.
We've only got about 2.5 minutes left with you tonight on the show. You know, you'll never run out of topics. That's the unfortunate part of what you do. But, when you are setting what you want to do for True Crime Garage, what are your goals here the next little while?
Well, so I work with several advocacy programs. I work with the Porch Light program. We have solved an actual cold case. We solved the Barbara Blatnick cold case in northeastern Ohio. Her murder went unsolved for almost 30 years, and we solved her case using DNA technology. I also work with the Missing and Exploited Children's organization founded by Adam Walsh's father. And look, I'm just looking to do some good, looking to try to help some people out, looking to try to help families out that have experienced stuff that nobody wants to have experience in their lives. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, think of everybody right now. Think about this for just a second. Somebody close to you, wife, sister, brother, father, mother, son, whomever, somebody that you just loved that was taken away from you by some monster, somebody that doesn't. I mean, these people with the violent acts, I mean, put them away forever. I don't know. I'm hoping that I can do some good, and I love that I have an audience. I love that people tune in every week, and I hope that I give them a little bit of information, give them a little bit of entertainment, give them a little bit of break from whatever's going on in their world. And you know what? If you liked it, join me next week.
Perfect.
We'll do it again.
Nick, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Pleasure getting to know you. I hope you had some fun with us tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
I did. And thank you for having me on.
All right, Nick from True Crime Garage, truecrimegarage.com is the website where you can find the podcast and the videos that go along with it. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Lots of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, man. Good show. Let's give you a few claps.
Mm-hmm.
You go off to bed now, man. Thank you for staying up.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, man.
I had a good time. It was fun.
Good. I'm glad. That works for me. All right, buddy. We'll stay in touch.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night, man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice guy. Nice guy. He deserves a few claps. Totally deserves a few claps. Hey, Flesh Wound, how you doing, man? I'm hungry. I don't know why the hell I'm hungry. Lots of dinner. Had a couple of oranges there. Hungry, though. My beard is looking good. Hi, gorgeous Kristen Allberg. Good weed, Dave. I don't smoke pot. I don't smoke pot at all. Love the smell. Don't, though. Hi, Brenda Nix. Welcome to our chat room. It's Brenda Nix, everybody. Say hello to Brenda Nix. Hey, New York Anthony, what's going on? Where have you been hiding lately? Big Bad Chris Mo, there he is. Philip Blair, of course you're going to eat breakfast right now. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning where you are. Maybe 6. Burrito, I would love nothing more to go to Taco Bell, but the closest Taco Bell is 2 hours away. Yeah. Try living in that insanity. Hey, Super Quest. Evening, my friend. How you doing, brother? Good to have you here, my friend. My dream. All of you, me, and Super Quest sharing a beer riding the roller coaster at New York, and Vegas. Your choice, front seat or back there, Super Quest. We still got just over 2 minutes. Hey, Spudgy, how you doing, man? It's 1:30 a.m. in Indiana. You know who else is from Indiana? William Axl Rose, the greatest rock singer ever outside of Freddie Mercury. Also from Indiana, the legendary guitarist Izzy Stradlin. And the other lead guitarist, formerly of Guns N' Roses, DJ Ashba. Indiana. Not just a Notre Dame school, everyone, but they know how to rock and roll. Oh, yeah. Philip, I thought you were across the pond. I apologize. But then again, I thought New York Anthony was UK Anthony. Thought he was from across the pond, too. Well, if you're eating breakfast at this time, you are a sicko. Absolute sicko. You know, I may go to 7-Eleven and get a couple of them burritos. Them was good burritos. You're eating your mustache hair right now, Corns, because it's long and getting into your teeth. I got a weird hockey story coming up first. Hey, Terrible Times. I did. I did get your message. I just haven't had a chance to respond yet, my friend. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. 10 seconds. Thank you to Big Rob, Fabster, and Cat Chaser for supporting us with the Super Chats tonight. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Good to have you with us. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, let's do this thing, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the wacky, the strange, and sometimes the sporty. So here's a weird one out of the NHL. The Arizona Coyotes have renounced the rights to a 2020 draft pick named Mitchell Miller. The news comes 3 days after a published story by Craig Harris and Jose M. Romero of the Arizona Republic revealing that Miller and another teen were charged with assault and violating the Ohio Safe Schools Act for bullying Isaiah Meyer Crothers, a black classmate with developmental disabilities, back in 2016. Now, the Coyotes, who selected Miller in the fourth round, 111th overall of the draft on October 7th, responded to the report with a statement from the team president and CEO, Xavier Gutierrez, saying that they would work with Miller to confront the bullying and racism. The franchise, though, abruptly changed direction. The owner says, "We have decided to renounce the rights to Mitchell Miller effective immediately. Prior to selecting Mitchell in the NHL draft, we were aware of the bullying incident that took place in 2016. We do not condone this type of behavior, but embraced this as a teachable moment to work with Mitchell to make him accountable for his actions and provide him with an opportunity to be a leader on anti-bullying and anti-racism efforts. We have learned more about the entire matter, and more importantly, the impact it has had on Isaiah and the Meyer Crothers family. What we learned does not align with the core values and vision for our organization and leads to our decision to renounce our draft rights. On behalf of the Arizona Coyotes ownership and the entire organization, I would like to apologize to Isaiah and the Myers Crothers family. We are building a model franchise on and off the ice, and will do the right thing for Isaiah and the Myers Crothers family, our fans, and our partners. Mr. Miller is now a free agent and can pursue his dream of becoming an NHL player elsewhere. Now, according to the pundits, the Coyotes informed Miller, currently a defenseman for the North Dakota Fighting Hawks, and his family of the decision earlier in the day. I fully support our decision to renounce Mitchell Miller's draft rights, Coyotes GM Bill Armstrong said in a statement. It was a unique situation for me not being able to participate in this year's draft, and we were going through a transition with our scouting department. Mitchell is a good hockey player, but we need to do the right thing as an organization and not just as a hockey team. I'd like to apologize to Isaiah and the Meyer Crothers family for everything they have had to deal with the past few months. I wish them all the best in the future. Now, some of the stories that are coming up, I'm not even going to repeat some of them. I mean, I will say this. I mean, spitting on a handicapped child? That's horrible. Urinating on his school books? Horrible. Kid doesn't deserve an opportunity. Even though that happened 4 years ago, went to court, you know what? To play professional sports, it's a privilege, not a right. And sometimes You got to grow up. Spotify is getting slammed for allowing Joe Rogan, one of its most popular podcasters, to host conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Why? The company, which still distributes mostly music, will begin to encounter more of these types of problems as it expands its podcast business. Hey, Spotify, I know one show that you'd never have problems with. Call us. Anyways, Spotify's general counsel has defended the company's decision to allow Rogan to host on Jones. The email includes talking points managers can use with defending the decision. We are not going to ban specific individuals from being guests on other people's shows, as the episode show complies with our content policy, it advises. Spotify has always been a place for creative expressions. It's important to have diverse voices and points of view on the platform. Now, Rogan hosts Jones on a podcast that aired this past Tuesday. In a lengthy interview, Jones disputed the effectiveness of vaccines. Rogan pushed back on Jones and asked his producers to pull up the articles he referenced for more context. Critics argue that by allowing Jones to be interviewed by Rogan on Spotify's platform, Spotify is giving Jones a platform to spew misinformation. Spotify has already banned some of Jones' podcasts from its platform for violating its rules on hate speech. But the company says that Jones himself isn't banned from appearing on Rogan's podcast, as it has no editorial control over what Rogan creates. That's what happens when you sign a guy to a $100 million contract. Jones's pages and profiles have been banned on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Apple's App Store, mostly for hate speech. He has been known to peddle conspiracies ranging from unproven anti-vaccination content to theories that the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting was staged. Spotify brought the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the most popular podcasts in America, to the platform via a multi-year exclusive deal this past September. Spotify doesn't typically ban creators for good. Rather, it aims to ban their content if it violates the company's policies. Interesting. I think we're going to hear more from this in the future. An Ohio man has achieved a Guinness World Record by collecting 1,221 unique pieces of memorabilia from the Ghostbusters franchise. Robert O'Connor of Elrea told Guinness officials he first saw the original Ghostbusters movie when he was only 4 years old, and it wasn't long before he started to accumulate merchandise. I started the collection myself, alone. I took something I love and built it to what I believe to be a great collection, and decided after all these years to share it with the world. His collection was certified as the world's largest collection of Ghostbusters memorabilia this year, when the official count stood at 1,221 pieces, but O'Connor said the collection is still growing. I actively look on the internet, local flea markets, local toy shops, and even on rare occurrences, I'll find something at a grocery store, he said. Good for him. Good for him having fun like that, even though it's a world record thing. Now, this is the type of story we could all get behind, literally. With the ongoing health crisis that has negatively impacted many things across the globe, here is one that is making things right. And it's happening in Mexico. Thanks to the pandemic, nobody going to the beaches. It's helping turtles increase in numbers. A staggering 2,250 baby olive Ridley sea turtles were released into the Gulf of California recently, with typically around 500 of the rare sea creatures are released each year. Due to the pandemic limiting human activity, the turtles were able to hatch undisturbed, meaning more of them survived. Fishermen and tourists usually end up disturbing their nests. The babies were released by the indigenous Seri community in Sonora State. Olive Ridley turtles are usually found in warmer waters and can often be located in the southern Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. As it stands, the turtles are classified as vulnerable on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List, despite them being in abundance compared to the likes of sea turtles. They're also listed as threatened in the United States. The reason for their vulnerable status is due to the turtles seeing around a 50% decrease in population since the 1960s. Despite many governments having laws in place to protect turtles, according to the WWF, some of the biggest threats these turtles are facing are human activities such as poaching. It's always that damn poaching, right? Can't stand it. The WWF continued, the more most severe threat they face is the accidental killing of adult turtles through entanglement in trawl nets and gill nets due to uncontrolled fishing during their mating season around nesting beaches. The eggs and hatchlings are also prey for many animals. Many hatchlings perish before they even reach the ocean due to be taken by animals including raccoons, birds, and snakes. With this in mind, it demonstrates how significant it is that 2,250 of the turtles were successfully released back into the ocean. Good for them. That's a good sign. All right, let's continue on here. Astronomers have detected a rogue planet hurtling through space without an orbiting sun. This planet, believed to be likely roughly the mass of Mars, is the smallest of its kind discovered to date and could only be observed indirectly with a technique called gravitational microlensing, a technique often used to detect exoplanets. The optical gravitational lensing experiment, otherwise known as OOGLE, in Poland first reported the existence of the sunless, free-roaming planets in 2011. See, this is the type of place where aliens live. But this one would be the smallest ever discovered, emitting a measurable signal for a mere 42 minutes. The discovery was published in the Journal of Astrophysical Journal's Letters this past week. This is the shortest microlensing event ever found, so the lowest mass planet ever found by microlensing, says Przemek Mroz, the first author of the paper and a postdoctoral scholar at Caltech. This is really exciting because it is such a tiny piece of rock. Well, that's kind of cool. That's actually very cool. Now, an asteroid that was discovered nearly 170 years ago could be worth as much as $10,000 quadrillion, experts believe. Oh, you know it needs some freedom. You definitely know it needs some freedom if it's worth that much money. The space rock known as 16 Psyche was discovered March 17, 1852, by Italian astronomer Annibale de Gasparis. But a newly published study notes it could be almost entirely comprised of iron and nickel. The study's lead author, Dr. Tracy Becker, estimates it's approaching its worth of $10,000 quadrillion. Can't even imagine that. Oh, you definitely know that the Americans want some freedom on this. Anyways, we've seen the meteorites that are mostly metal, but Psyche could be unique in that it might be an asteroid that is totally made of iron and nickel, Becker said in a statement. Earth has a metal core, a mantle, and crust. It's possible that as a Psyche protoplanet was forming, but it was struck by another object in the solar system and lost its mantle and crust. According to data from the World Economic Forum, the GDP for the entire planet was $114.4 trillion in 2018, pretty much almost what Justin Trudeau has racked up in Canadian debt in 2020. It's also believed that 16 Psyche, which is approximately 230 million miles from Earth in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, is a protoplanet, or the leftover core of a planet that started to form and failed. Becker said she was able to observe the mass space rock at two distinct points in its rotation, noting that it was reflective at ultraviolet wavelengths. We were able to identify for the first time on any asteroid what we think are iron oxide ultraviolet absorption bands. This is an indication that oxidation is happening on the asteroid, which could be the result of a solar wind hitting the surface. 16 Psyche has a 140-mile diameter, making it one of the largest non-planet objects in the asteroid belt, and one that could answer many unsolved questions about the formation of the solar system. What makes Psyche and other asteroids so interesting is that they're considered to be the building blocks of a solar system. To understand what really makes up a planet and to potentially see the inside of a planet is fascinating. Once we get Psyche, we are really going to understand if that's the case, even if it doesn't turn out as we expect. Anytime there is a surprise, it's always exciting. This is what I think. It looks like the Death Star. I think something Star Wars happened here. Aliens were on it. Maybe still on it. Maybe it's being flown through the solar system. I think this thing's got aliens. And if it doesn't, let's just try it. All right. A farmer in China is reaping success with fruits and vegetables uniquely grown to look like President Donald Trump, especially during the last two presidential election cycles. Stephen Ding runs a business called Fruit Mold in Suzhou, Jiangsu, and claims that his pumpkins, peppers, and white gourds, shaped to look like the head of the face of the 45th president, have been the cream of the crop with buyers. The farmer began growing fruits and veggies inspired by Trump with original plastic molds during the 2016 race, saying that this is a big demand for these items. Trumpkins. You can get your own Trumpkin. Ever since, and especially as U.S. voters cast their ballot for the upcoming election. Ding will spend between 2 and 3 weeks cultivating each crop of the presidential produce, with the fruits and veggies grown to be about 9 inches tall, selling for $40 a pop. This guy is reaping it in on old Trumpster. I don't know if I would eat it. I really don't. A beloved stray cat that made London's Southwark Cathedral her home for 12 years was memorialized in a special service hosted by the cathedral's dean on live stream. Andrew Nunn, the dean of Southwark Cathedral, live streamed a service of Thanksgiving in memory of Dorkins Magnificat, a stray cat that wandered into the building in 2008 and lived there for 12 years before her death on September 30th. Nunn says Dorkins was a common sight in the cathedral and was popular with visitors of the church. She was enormously popular and had a massive Twitter following and was also the focus of a lot of people's visits to the cathedral. He said he felt it was appropriate to hold a memorial for the feline. When she died, the response was huge, and we knew that we had to do something. There was no way in which we could just ignore the fact, and why would you? We loved her, and she gave a lot of our love back. And Nunn said Dorkins' tenure at the cathedral included an encounter with Queen Elizabeth II during a 2012 visit. He said the cat gave the Queen a look before going to sleep, eliciting amusement from the royal. He said the cat was an asset for the church's public relations. I got used to the fact that she had more Twitter followers than I did, and that she brought in more people to the church than I will ever do, Nunn stated. People came in, and they wouldn't necessarily be churchgoers, but they'd come in to find the cat, and I think that they found themselves very welcome. Ending up in a sacred space and spending time with the cat was good for all people. And finally tonight, how is this for Americana? A Florida woman in labor had her husband stop on the way to the hospital for the birth of their child so she could cast her vote. Karen Brisenko Gonzalez, an employee of the Orange County Supervisor of Elections, said she was processing voter ballots about 2:30 on Tuesday when a man came in with his wife's driver's license. The man explained his wife was outside in the car and wanted to cast her vote. I go, we need her here. And he basically told me that there's going to be a problem because she refuses to go to the hospital until she votes. The man explained his wife was in labor and insisted on voting before going to actually give birth. Yeah, Briseno Gonzalez said she initially took the mail-in box or ballot out to the woman, but she refused it. She said, no, I need to fill it out right now. Brisenko Gonzalez waited for the woman to complete the ballot, so the woman in labor filled out her ballot while she was doing a little controlled breathing. She admitted it was an unusual incident for elections employees. It was an odd situation, but she wanted to vote, and that was her right as an American citizen. She said she was grateful the couple left and went to the hospital after casting the ballot. By the way, no update on if they had their child as of yet. And you know what? That is dedication to the company, or to the country, pardon me. That is dedication that most people do not have and refuse to use their right to vote. Good for her. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. We're having a lazy day. What do you like to do? You know what? I hate doing chores. Today I did chores. Yeah, I did. I did chores today. And it sucks. All right, so what do you like to do? Reverend Keith, imagine what I would do if I was the great Dave Scott. Yeah, you know what you'd do? You'd go outside in the cold and you would split firewood for 4.5 hours. Alex Mistretta, who never wears a shirt, says, put a shirt on, sometimes even a long sleeve on real lazy days. James, what's a day off? Chris, what? I can have one of those? Tim, like Alex, but put pants on. Kira, I don't remember. It's been too long ago. Ron, a little cloudy and clear where he is. Right now, I'm taking the garbage out. Gwen, garden, play video games, and hike through the beautiful Florida rainforests. Anne, cinnamon rolls. Davey, I like to get out in the great outdoors on my bike and reconnect with nature. John, usually other projects on the go around home. Gabe, play video games till I pass out. James, less than 0. Kimberly, read, watch movies, nap, color, although I've been off work since March, so yeah, a day off? Ha. James, pretend I'm working, then take lots of coffee breaks and overpay myself at the end of the day. David, gym, then a good breakfast, then some sort of kata or tai chi. Break out the acoustic. Very nice. Amy, I organize areas of my house and or clean while listening to music or UFO shows like yours, of course, Dave. After I've gotten some chores done, I feel so happy. Science Bob, I eat a waffle for breakfast, tinker around with my amateur radio gear. Preston, I usually play video games and listen to SOR. Thank you, Preston. Sparkles, read or do anything that involves being outside in nature. Bobby, listen to back episodes of our Keith Andrews on SOR. Final word tonight goes to Brad. I sleep. Yeah. Well, maybe we got time for one or two more. The paranormal lawyer, Michael W. Hall, he writes at Starbucks. Polly Poopy Pants, he cuts wood. Quincy, I research, contact guests, and augment minuscule aspects of my show. Wait, did you say day off? And Kevin Knuth, sleep. And if I could time travel, I would do it to sleep. That's a good one to end it on right there. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire. And to Nick from True Crime Garage for telling us some true crime stories tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Ball rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everybody in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club on our website, and all the Snarkers and Snarkats hanging out on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You were marvelous tonight. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yep, we got room for them too. Good night.